Hi. Okay. As it was said, my name is Oscar Charles Crombie, and I'm a DP2 residential student here at UWC Maastricht. And tonight, I want to tell you a story about myself. About 5 years ago today, I woke up in the morning, just like many before it, and I got dressed in the style that felt like me and the clothing that fit right. I hurriedly went upstairs, had breakfast, and finished an essay that was due the same morning. I only just made the bus, taking me to school and making it to first period. I handed in my essay, and I won't lie, it was a pretty good essay. I wrote about HIV, what it was, the stigma, and the inherent homophobia that's tied to it. And if you can't figure it out just yet, I'm queer. And so it was a topic close to my heart. And this piece of information will become more relevant, I promise. After handing in my essay, my day went like it usually did. Went about business, went to class, skipped most of my history lesson because I had to go to the bathroom, or in reality, watch TikToks in the hallways. About second last period, we didn't really have class, and as such, we were just chatting, making jokes, general bonding time, you could say. It just so happened that the lesson before, we had watched a movie with some pretty intense kissing, at least for it being school. As such, the jokes we were making may have been more suggestive in nature. A guy in our class had said something, and the opportunity to make a joke was just a little too good, and I had to take it. It made people laugh, and we moved on to our next lesson, where we continued talking about Shakespeare and his importance in English modern culture. I was really ready to leave, as I had plans to meet a friend later. My small class and I all walked together out of school that day. And just as we were about to split up, the same man I had made a joke to earlier came up to me, and he said, "If you make one more of those gay jokes around me, I'll go home, get my shotgun, and put 2 shells in your head." I didn't think much of it. I kind of just brushed it off and laughed, because I never liked him, and I just thought the comment was stupid. However, the next day, I woke up, and I found myself wearing clothing that didn't feel like me, that didn't fit right, and was more stereotypically male. Less color or style to it. The type of clothing that extras wear in movies to fit into the crowds. I didn't realize it at the time, but his comment made me so conscious of my movements, my speech, my walk, and my jokes to make sure I never crossed that line again. I spoke less, I made less jokes, and I made myself small. I made myself into that background extra, silent in my own movie. That year, I cut myself for the first time. That year, I had the first thought of never waking up, and that year I thought, let me make one more joke, so he finally puts that shell in my head. That year, I lost myself, I lost my identity, and I lost my being. And it took me years of fighting, crying, and screaming with my own mind, reminding myself that I had at least one quality that gave me some worth. Years after, I still think about making that last joke, and sometimes I think the only reason I didn't was because I have a family and I couldn't do that to them. Years later, I still have complexes in my head that urge me to make myself small. Being queer, in my mind, shouldn't have to be an identity. It shouldn't have to be a marker that makes me different, but it is. It is an integral part of who I am, and it makes me part of an amazing community. It makes me part of a community that doesn't have a people, nor a nation or a border, yet it brings together people from every part of the world. It is a community that has faced oppression, prejudice, harm, and violence, yet it stands, because it is not a choice. LGBTQ+ youth are more than 4 times more likely to commit suicide than their cis heterosexual counterparts. 42% of all LGBTQ+ people report being bullied in school, and over half of all LGBTQ+ people report hearing homophobic slurs and jokes frequently in school. These are just statistics, but talk to the people in your life, talk to your queer friends, and you will realize that these are the realities for queer youth around the world, 24/7, 365 days a year. I have been incredibly privileged in my life. I was able to grow up in a country where being queer is not a crime. I was able to marry whoever I want. Yet, the statistics mentioned all apply to me. And even if I, a Norwegian citizen, a country declared as one of the most progressive, can find myself in these statistics, what does that say about the millions of youth around the world who have it worse than I do? What does that say for the millions of youth who are excluded from society, thrown out by their parents, beaten, and are hated every single day of their existence just because they are proud enough to say who they are? Where does that leave the youth who are too scared to be proud because they grow up oppressing every single part of themselves, so that they can fit into what our heteronormative, patriarchal society tells them they have to be like? So I ask that you reflect and take in what I'm saying, educate yourself, and remember that words have so much power and can cause so much irreversible damage to so many bright, caring, smart individuals who all just want to grow up with a normal youth, one not filled with hatred and hate crimes. Why does it matter to you who I want to marry? And more importantly, why does who I want to marry affect your perception of me? Why does it make you assume I act in a certain way? And why does it make you assume I only listen to girly pop music? Why do I have to exist in a state of limbo, never relating to my female friends, but never being accepted by my male peers? Why, when I dress the way that I do you feel the need to say, "Ah, yes, you look gay"? Because to me it does matter. It matters to me that you categorize me into the small and narrow perception of what a queer man is, and it matters to me that you stereotype me, because every time you do, it takes me back to the day I was told I don't deserve life, and it takes away from all the amazing, brilliant ideas and contributions I can give to the world. I am who I am today because of my experiences. I had the ability to grow up, and I made it to 18. I call myself a queer man because I'm proud of what that means. I was lucky enough to grow up with a role model, someone who became a close friend of mine, who was proud enough to be themselves, in spite of the danger it put them in. I share my identity proudly because I hope that I can be that same role model, even to just one kid, telling them it's okay to be themselves. I will continue to hear homophobia and misrepresentation in the media till the day I die. I will continue to read the news and hear of another non-binary student who was beaten to death by their peers. So if I get too offended at a silly little gay joke, know that I fought for my life to have the courage to speak up, and know that that silly little gay joke may have caused someone else to take their life. I would like you to all look at the 45-second timer that's been counting down. Every 45 seconds, it started anew. And according to the Trevor Project, every 45 seconds, a queer teen attempts suicide. That's 1,920 attempts daily and 13,440 a week. LGBTQ+ has to be an identity because it is a political statement, whether I want it to be or not. I am so much more than my sexuality, and I am so much more than my gender. I am an individual who dreams of going to uni, learning about data and technology. I love science fiction, and I hate rom-coms and Hallmark Christmas movies. I hate football, but adore volleyball. I have so many passions, aspirations, likes and dislikes. But none of this seems to matter, because to some, I am a freak living outside the binary of traditional religious marriage. I am a proud queer man because in the short while I have spoken, 13 people attempted suicide. It is who I am, it is who I fought to be, and it is why I continue to fight to exist. Thank you for listening to me.